He was betrayed by his closest allies in his party and marked as a traitor, but he returns back 20 years later as the strongest hero killer. Zell was one of the 14 lances of the Empire who were the heroes that fought and protected the country, but things quickly go south when the Emperor sends them on a deadly weapon. Out of the 14 heroes, 3 die in the journey, while 7 of them run for their life against the strongest enemies, but Zell and 3 of his friends were not cowards and bravely fought against these unbeatable odds, even winning the battle for their country. While they were on their way back through some thick jungles, they were ambushed by the 7 heroes who ran away, and Zell alongside his 3 tired friends were quickly outmatched. The 7 heroes killed Zell's friends while slashing him across the eye as well, but he somehow survives. The 7 lances are later known as the 7 heroes, while Zell and his friends are called the 4 lances of betrayal, as the 7 heroes announce that Zell and his friends ran away from the enemy. 20 years later, the capital city is well guarded by the monastery to prevent any of the peasants pass through. Every single day, several people who try to enter the border illegally are hanged and killed publicly, and this day was no different, as the chief monk Raz hangs 4 peasants before ordering their death. Soon he hears some noise coming from behind and finds out that one of his guards have found another illegal immigrant who's just a little girl. Raz, however, is the ancestor of Trump and has no sympathy for immigrants, as he orders her death as well, but thankfully, Zell appears behind her, claiming that she is his sister as he tries to walk away with her. Raz isn't fooled so easily though, and claims that now both of them will be executed. Before Zell could do anything though, a tall man with blue hair appears behind them and grabs both of them up, pretending to be a relative, as he apologizes to Raz and bribes him with some gold coins. This strategy works, as Raz lets them leave while the blue-haired man tells them that they can't enter the borders so easily without any planning. He claims that he himself has paid a lot of money to the smugglers and has planned this extensively, so they should stay out of the way and make no trouble. He looks at the girl named Pee-Pee and asks why the hell does she won't enter the borders, while she sadly replies that there is nothing left for her back in her village where everything was destroyed. Suddenly, Zell pricks his ears as he hears people coming, so he picks Pee-Pee up and yeets her into the stream below before telling the blue-haired man to get his weapon ready. The man was confused, but soon 13 guards emerge from behind, completely surrounding them as they ask for even more money. Zell realizes that the monastery is just a front, as only people who donate a lot of money are given permission to cross the border. Soon one of the guards decides to attack, but without any hesitation, Zell splits him in half with just a single slash of his sword. This really shocks the blue-haired man, since he doesn't know that Zell is one of the former heroes, and as more guards attack him, Zell makes quick work of them as he slashes through all of them effortlessly. Once the guards were dead, he throws them all into the stream below, while the blue-haired man looks at him impressed and asks for his help. He introduces himself as Weed and promises to smuggle him and Pee-Pee inside the borders as well. That evening, all 3 of them get transported through the stream in a small boat, which takes them to a shady tavern. Zell starts drinking like my alcoholic uncle, but soon Wide directs him into a room to meet the head of smugglers, named Altia. Altia turns out to be a beautiful woman who starts asking questions before telling Zell that tomorrow is the last chance to see the 7 heroes and get their autographs, since they are leaving to suppress a civil war on the borders. This catches Zell's attention, as he wants nothing more than to take revenge on these cold-hearted killers. But before he can ask anything, a man enters the room and claims that the monks are in the tavern with weapons. Altia quickly walks out, while Raz, the head monk, claims that he has gotten news about this tavern being a den of smugglers. Altia quickly denies it, but Raz brought one of the midgets she helped get in, who completely rats on her in order to save his life. It was all for nothing though, as the monk decided to practice their baseball skills on his head, killing him immediately. An all-out brawl breaks out as the monks attack everyone, while Raz manages to get his hands on Pee-Pee and swears to make an example out of her. Wei tries to fight his way through, but before Raz could hurt Pee-Pee, Zell arrives from the balcony and slashes the ropes to a giant boat which falls on top of them, monks killing several of them, while also freeing Pee-Pee in the process. Zell gets up to count the remaining monks, while Raz screams at him that defying the monks is equal to defying the 7 heroes. But Zell isn't a simp for the heroes and claims that it's a bonus for him, as he kills another monk with a single slash. Raz quickly escapes out, and soon sirens start ringing in the city, which means that the security has been tightened. Altia claims that they will have to lie low for a couple of days now, but Zell claims that he will get into the capital no matter what, since the heroes will be leaving tomorrow. Altia gets impressed by his determination and claims that there is one secret route that the monastery doesn't know about, and they can use that. Soon they start running through the dark tunnels while killing the small goblins that attack them, when they soon emerge into an opening. To their horror though, a giant goblin emerges from the darkness and blocks their way. Altia starts getting PTSD, but Zell wastes no time as he tries to attack the monster head-on. Unfortunately though, the monster's skin is too hard and his sword does nothing, while the goblin grabs Zell in his fists and punches him into the wall. Zell lays there unconscious while Altia starts freaking out, claiming that they are all going to die, but Y doesn't give up and throws a metallic ring at the monster's head, knocking him back before using the ring to trip the monster over. As the monster falls to the ground, Y starts looking for an escape route, but soon the giant goblin gets back on its feet for round 2. Wade shoots his ring at the monster's head once again, managing to crack the tough skin, but this time his luck runs out as the monster grabs the cord and flings him into a wall, knocking him to the ground. Altia manages to save Peepee's life, but now she is stuck without any way to escape. Just as Wide thought all was over though, he notices a bright light above him, where Zell was lying unconscious. Within seconds, Zell jumps onto the monster's head before slashing it in half with a single strike of his sword. Altia is shocked at the boy's strength, while Zell tells Weed to get up as they have a shit to catch. Just as they were about to leave though, Zell senses danger and tells everyone to get back as a magical slash completely evaporates the body of the monster. Zell is shocked but soon finds Raz on the ledge above the tall man who seems to have a magic sword with him. He realizes that the situation might quickly get out of control and tells Wade and the others to stay back while Raz explains that this man was also a smuggler before, but now he works for them. The tall man then picks up his sword once again when Zell notices a fairy tied to the handle screaming in pain, which was creating those magical attacks. The man swings his sword, creating an aerial slash, but Zell bravely intercepts the attack and slashes it in two, surprising both Raz and his hired killer. Zell starts crying like a little bitch after that, screaming at them to stop using the sword, which confuses White and Altia, but Peepo also notices that the fairy seems to be in extreme pain whenever the magical attacks are used. Raz laughs at Zell and tells the man to finish the job, but the man sheaths his sword back, claiming that he was paid to make sure they weren't able to reach the ship, and now they are too late to catch the ship, which means his job is done. Raz immediately begs him to stay and offers even more money to incapacitate Zell completely, so the man agrees and takes out his sword once again, attacking Zell with all his might, causing the cave to collapse. Zell drops down to a lower level of the cave where he gets up injured to find Raz standing, who claims that he knows Zell's race gets energy from the moon, but at this level of the cave he can't see the moon anymore, which means that he is done for. Immediately, a bunch of guards emerge with weapons and surround him completely before attacking him together. Zell quickly gets back to his senses and dodges the attacks effortlessly, before landing a sword slash at one of the guards, who barely manages to block it. Zell seems impressed and realizes that these guards are definitely strong, while the guards get scared by Zell's incredible strength. Raz tells them to attack again, but this time Zell quickly dodges and lands ahead of them, forcing Raz to run. Zell chases after him while the guards follow him, but before they could attack, Zell stabs his sword in the ground, causing his surrounding area to burn with a purple fire, which immediately melts all the guards into a mess of melted metal and burnt body parts. Raz is too shocked to even speak and asks how did Zell know about a trap that even he was unaware of, but Zell calmly replies that he has visited this place many times in the past. He throws him through the next door and walks in where he finds another high priest sitting near a statue. Zell calmly bypasses him and goes near the statue while the priest screams at him to back off, since even the 7 heroes are not allowed to come here, as this is the resting place of Erdnak, the servant of the heroes who sacrificed himself to protect the city by creating a magic circle, after the 4 lances of betrayal betrayed the kingdom and were killed by the 7 heroes. Zell laughs at that as he starts talking quietly to the statue of Erdnak, claiming that a great man like him is being called a servant of the heroes today. He remembers the time just before the 14 heroes were about to leave on their last expedition, but Zell went with Erdnak to the underground caves to make sure that the city was properly defended, while the other 13 heroes went ahead into the forest to face the enemy. Tears fall down Zell's eye as he tells the statue of Erdnak that the man who he thought was his best friend was laughing the most when Zell and 3 other friends of his were being hacked to pieces after the ambush. He screamed that those bastards just wanted to claim all the glory of the victory for themselves, and that's what happened as they were celebrated after they returned to the kingdom as heroes and got all the money and fame that they could ever need. After getting that out of his system, Zell stands up again and takes out his sword to activate another magic circle, when the high priest starts screaming at him to stop and tells Raz to stop the boy no matter what. Raz, however, is a total bitch, so the high priest shoots some hidden darts at Zell, but he is too fast and blocks the darts while slashing the magic circle in half, destroying it completely. The high priest watches in horror as the entire monastery starts collapsing, and soon enough, the entire border wall made by the magic of Erdnak collapses into nothing, opening the gates to the capital city to everyone. This immediately creates a riot as every single peasant starts rushing to get inside the city, where they find Raz climbing out of the debris still alive. Raz thankfully locates the tall man with the magic sword and offers to pay him anything he wants to protect him, But the man refuses the offer and walks away, letting the angry mob have the corrupt priest. Zell slowly walks out of the tunnels, remembering Erdnach sadly, and vows to kill the 7 heroes, while on the other side, Weed tracks down and stops the guards of the monastery from escaping on the last ship, while Zell himself steals a dragon-type Pokemon or some shit as he flies alongside the ship into the city. Meanwhile, inside the city, the wealthy and the elite shiver at the sight of the collapsing border, but the soldiers tell them to calm down as the 7 heroes are still in the city and will protect them no matter what. Zell straight up makes his way towards the heroes, but he lets his rage take control of him and pays for it when the archers of the kingdom are huge fans of Game of Thrones and shoot the dragon down with extreme ease. Zell with his small angry brain didn't think that this would happen, so he isn't able to regain control as his flailing dragon smashes into the ground below, surrounded by people and guards. Zell, however, is not fazed by it as he gets out of the crater to everyone's surprise and looks towards the entrance only to see it being opened as one of the 7 heroes named Glenn comes out alongside his guards. Zell immediately gets PTSD from the time his friends got slaughtered, and without a second thought, he takes out his sword and tries to slash Glenn's head off. To his surprise, however, his sword stops just before reaching his throat, and he realizes that one of the guards threw a magical dagger near him, which freezes him completely. To everyone's surprise, though, Zell still manages to move his arms a little even after being stopped by one of the strongest magic in the world. Unfortunately, though, Zell is vastly outnumbered as the guard quickly lock him up with their wire cuffs, completely stopping his movements while he struggles to breathe. His sword drops to the ground, and soon the entire public starts screaming for his blood, begging Glenn to kill the boy as he dared pick up his weapon against one of the great heroes. Glenn slowly makes his way towards the trapped Zell, but just when Zell thought that his quest for revenge was over before it began, Glenn ends up surprising him as he turns to the public, claiming that it's just a little kid from the borderlands outside the city and has probably faced a tough life in the hood, so he forgives him for this act. The crowd goes silent, but soon erupts in cheers for Glenn the Merciful, who is so saintly that he would even forgive a person who tried to kill him. This completely breaks Zell as he realizes that Glenn and the others have already achieved what they wanted to get. After killing his friends and almost killing him, they have amassed so much respect and fame that they are the ones basically running the entire country. He stands there in the rain all alone and with a heavy heart, starts moving into the forest when suddenly Daenerys Targaryen herself swoops down on a dragon before picking him up and flying into the sky. Zell submits himself to his fate as Dany takes out a weird-looking sword and was about to stab him when Weed rear-ends her with his airship. Unfortunately, though, the airship was made by Boeing, so it crashed immediately, but it was enough to save Zell's life for a while. Dany gets up once again and takes her sword out as she angrily moves towards a broken Zell, but before she could kill him, Pee-Pee jumps in the middle, telling Dany to leave the man alone. Dany angrily tells her to move out of the way if she wants to live, but Pee-Pee stands her ground. To her surprise, this absolute psychopath swings her sword at the little girl, almost killing her. Pee-Pee falls to the ground and was about to be shish kebab when Weed calls Dany a princess. For once, he was not being homophobic, as it turns out that Dany was actually a princess of the same clan as him, dressed as a soldier. She screams at Wade to stay back as this white-haired pipsqueak took her brother's life. Wade is shocked by this, while Dany immediately tries to stab Zell through Pee-Pee. Zell, however, gets up in a trance and saves Pee-Pee while getting stabbed in the leg. Before Dany could even respond, Zell gets in her face with his dagger and breaks her helmet before putting the blade to her throat. Dany is shocked and pisses herself as she collapses on the floor defeated, while Zell falls to the ground unconscious. Weed quickly takes all of them to a small refugee camp near the city so that Zell could recover, but Dany wouldn't hear of it as she claims that he killed her brother Krat, the leader of the clan, which means that he needs to die, but Wade stops her, claiming that her brother was his leader as well, and he knows that Krat wouldn't want her to go on a pointless revenge streak. Zell overhears all this and gets up before throwing his sword at her and telling her to kill him, but all he gets is a jaw-breaking punch from Weed, who tells him to get a hold of himself as he can't back out of a quest so easily. He then turns towards the dragon and tells her to chill out as well, since he thinks Zell can help them find her older sister who went to a neighboring kingdom to negotiate for peace, but was kidnapped on the way. Zell tells him that he is weak and can't do anything, but after a small pep talk, he agrees to help Weed find the girl. A couple days pass by and Zell still seems depressed, when Pee-Pee runs up to him and claims that she found some people from the same race as her, so she would stay with them and set up a village. Before he could reply, though, Zell grabs his sword as he feels a strong presence, but Pee-Pee calms him down, claiming that it's just the Centurion who is a good guy and has been helping her. Weed overhears the noise, so he comes out of the tent when his eyes go wide as he remembers that this bald mofo was one of the guys who abducted the princess of his clan. He immediately throws his ring towards Baldy, who quickly grabs it, claiming that he is very demure and mindful, and would never do anything like that. Weed, however, isn't convinced yet and starts roasting his bald head and the Cream Puff attitude, which angers the Centurion, who snaps the rope easily. Weed is shocked, but before they could do anything, a little boy named Zeffy, who is the same race as Pee-Pee, runs towards the Baldy, asking for his protection as he gets chased by 4 men. The Centurion punches them to sleep, but soon enough a large group of bandits arrive, telling the Centurion to hand the kids over. The Centurion tells them to piss off and takes out his dagger, which has the crest of the hero Landgrave. He tells them to back off as he is working under the hero's command, but one of the bandits walks up and takes out his own dagger, which is a bit bigger than the Baldy. The Centurion gets insecure, while the bandit leader claims that he is on a secret mission on the same hero's command, so he should back off. The bandits soon start closing the distance, while the Centurion wonders what should he do, but before anyone could touch Pee-Pee, Zell slashes them in half with a single swing of his sword. The bandits are shocked by this and decide to attack him all at once, but Zell moves quicker than a snake as he slashes through all of the bandits without even breaking a sweat. The bandit leader starts getting nervous as he starts showing his dagger, claiming that the hero would take revenge, but Zell slashes the dagger in his hand in half. The bandit falls to the ground and tells the Centurion to help him, but the Centurion stabs him in the other arm, asking him to tell the truth. Before they could do anything, though, a man named Fargo appears out of nowhere and asks what's happening. The bandit immediately runs towards him, claiming that he did everything he said, but before he could say anything else, Fargo slashes him through the neck, killing him immediately. He claims that the dagger was stolen a month ago and must have landed in the arms of these bandits. He then walks towards Zell and claims that he is a good fighter, while the Centurion thanks him for saving them as well. Wyatt, on the other hand, is still not convinced though and asks Fargo why the hell did they kidnap the first Princess Sharon. Fargo looks at him and claims that they have her perfect fine and it was necessary to prevent a war. He claims that he can't release her yet, but they can arrange a meeting. Later that evening, they manage to beat the remaining bandits and free the prisoners, after which they head down to sleep, while Wyatt and Danny head out towards Fargo's manor to arrange a meeting. To their surprise, however, they are quickly surrounded by the same bandits that Zell killed that day. Wade is horrified as he realizes that this magic is from the Shadowlands, which transforms dead people into zombies. An all-out brawl breaks out as both him and Danny try to fight their way out of the zombie horde, but no matter how many of them they chop, the zombies simply regenerate once again and attack. Fargo watches them quietly from the window and decides that both of them are as good as dead, so he leaves the manor and moves towards the camp to finish Zeffy and their entire race's bloodline. He enters their tent only to find them sleeping, but unfortunately for him, the parents end up waking up. He quickly kills the mother before the father starts wrestling him, but Fargo quickly overpowers and kills him as well, leaving the sleeping Zeffy alone unguarded. Just before he was about to kill him, though, Pee-Pee screams at him from behind as she saw everything and tells him to leave them alone. Meanwhile, Donnie and Wyatt are completely trapped by the zombies who are ready to eat them out, but soon Danny remembers that she is the dragon and calls her stupid dragon, who saves them once again. Danny then nukes the zombies before flying away to safety with Wyatt. They soon return back to the camp where they find Fargo kicking the shit out of poor Pee-Pee. Somehow, even after all this noise, Zeffy is still fast asleep. Fargo laughs at her pathetic attempt to save the boy before using his dark magic to create a monster out of Zeffy's dead parents. By the time Zeffy wakes up, he gets knocked out once again on the ground. Fargo then turns towards Pee-Pee and was about to kill her, but Zell arrives just in time, once again blocking the attack easily. He looks at the monstrosity that Fargo had become, but he already expected it since he was the second in command to the evil hero Landgrave. Zell quickly uses his own magic, which creates a bunch of tentacles out of his ass with swords, which helps him to make quick work of the zombie before turning towards Fargo. Fargo is beyond shocked to see this, as he has no idea how can a boy be so powerful. Zell, however, doesn't skip a beat and soon chops off Fargo's arms as well, but during the commotion, the entire camp finally wakes up and, looking at the horrifying scene, immediately assume that Zell had gone berserk and killed Zeffy's family before hurting Fargo as well, who tried saving them. They run at him with sticks and stones, while Zell wonders whether he should just kill them and be done with it. But thankfully, the dragon arrives in time and rescues him away from all this bullshit. Later that morning, Pee-Pee tries to make the camp leaders understand that they got it all wrong, but obviously they refuse to believe the words of a stupid little girl. Meanwhile, Danny apologizes to Zell for trying to kill him and claims that she wants to help him in his quest as well. Soon after, they depart on the dragon's back straight towards Landgrave's castle to corner him and get information about Sharon, but Landgrave seems to have alerted his guards and they have formed a mini army surrounding the castle. The moment they are spotted in the dark starry sky, the Dragon Brigade immediately launches into motion, chasing after Zell and his party, while the archers get ready to take potshots at him. As if this wasn't enough, the guards decide to call in the big guns, and soon a huge artillery machine emerges from the castle. Wheat is shocked to see that, but Zell looks at the machine with nostalgia as he remembers the time when he and Landgrave were young and were tasked to create this magic weapon from scratch. At that time, the Empire was on the brink of ruin because of enemy attacks, and this weapon was their last line of defense. Landgrave was the chief architect of the weapon, while Zell, the strongest swordsman in the country, was supposed to protect this place from enemy raids. Back in the present, the Dragon Brigade starts chasing them directly into the artillery's line of fire, while the archers shoot relentlessly at them. Wag gets confused since Zell is not fighting back, but it's hard for the little hero to strike back as all these soldiers used to be his trusted comrade once who fought alongside him. He tries to find an opening since he doesn't want to kill any of these innocent soldiers who are just following orders, but he needs to do something if he wants to come alive out of this situation. He takes out his magic swords and gets ready for a fight when the artillery cannon finally charges up and fires a massive blast directly at them, but to everyone's surprise, Zell moves straight into the artillery blast before slashing at it with his sword. The guards think that they have killed the little hero, but soon Danny's dragon emerges out of the smoke and starts flying away. The Dragon Brigade follows it only to find out that Zell and his party are nowhere to be found. Realizing this, the entire castle is sent into disarray as everyone starts looking for these rebels, but Zell knows the entire castle like the back of his hand since he spent so much time in it and finds the secret passageway in no time. While running through the narrow passages, though, they end up coming face to face with the bald centurion who stands in their way, confused since only Landgrave's closest allies know about this secret way. Zell and the others grab their swords, telling the baldy to move out of the way, but to their surprise, a little poof starts crying as he claims that he saw what kind of a monster Fargo was and is ashamed to admit that he worked for him for so long. He claims that Landgrave and Fargo are planning something very evil, and he cannot support it anymore. He also claims that he was the one who captured Princess Sharon and brought her to the shrine. Wade gets angry at this and grabs him by the neck, but Zell tells him to chill out. Centurion promises to take them to the place where he left the girls and dresses all three of them in a maiden's costume. Soon he leads them through a series of tunnels to reach a large gate where a bunch of masked men tell him to leave the girls with them. This time, however, the baldy tells them to call Fargo as he wants to talk to him. Scared by the big bald man, the masked men quickly went back to get Fargo with them, who slowly comes out with an injured arm. He realizes that something seems to have gotten into the Centurion's brain as he starts asking what he was doing with the girls and wanted to see it for himself. He starts crying and reveals that he saw Fargo kill Zephy's parents at the camp, but Fargo is smart and starts gaslighting him just like my ex. He claims that Zephy's parents were enemies of the kingdom, so he was forced to kill him. The baldy seems to lack a brain as well as hair as he immediately believes it and tells Zell and the others that it was just a misunderstanding. Fargo immediately realizes that the intruders are here and stabs the Centurion twice in the body, but before he could finish the baldy off, Zell jumps into action and blocks the attack. Fargo falls back as Zell jumps towards him, but he manages to block the little hero's attack at the last moment. Realizing that in his weakened state, it would be difficult to take Zell on, he decides to lay a trap for him and offers to make a deal. Zell, however, is in no mood and claims that he will kill him right here, and then take the maidens back to their places. Fargo, however, laughs like a maniac before revealing that he has converted almost all of the girls into living zombies. Zell gets consumed by rage and immediately attacks Fargo with all his might, but the bastard manages to block the attack before going on the offensive, forcing Zell on the back foot as he tries to defend himself against the countless tentacles. Zell is pushed back once again while Weed tells him to use his own black swords against this monster. Zell replies that he can't use all of his powers when he can't see the moon, which means that he is at a big disadvantage here. Wee realizes this and immediately jumps in to help, followed by Danny, who goes in the other direction, creating a pincer attack from both sides. Fargo easily sees this and laughs as he decides to ignore the other two losers and focuses all of his tentacles towards Zell. Thankfully, Zell manages to evade the attacks once again, but Fargo finds an opening and disarms Zell before stabbing him in the arm. Fargo was about to finish the job when the Centurion throws the special dagger with the Landgrave crest towards Zell. He catches it easily, and to Fargo's horror, he takes out the dagger and jumps towards the monster before stabbing him in the head, ending his story then and there. Zell gets up once again and without another word tells Weed and Danny to follow him to the next room while they leave the Centurion to cry over the dead Fargo. Soon they enter into the inner vault where the shrine is located, and they spot Landgrave standing there with the masked scientists while Sharon the princess is tied to an altar while some weird tentacles suck the life force out of her. Zell starts doing what he does best, which is slashing anyone who comes near him. while the scientists tremble with fear. Landgrave, however, still doesn't seem too worried as he tells them to continue their work. But soon Weed and Danny also enter the chamber and immediately head towards Sharon. They kill the remaining scientists and free Sharon off the altar where she lays barely alive. Landgrave gets furious and shouts at them that he is the hero who saved the kingdom and every one of them from the evil hands of the enemy empire, and they should kiss his feet for that, instead of fighting against him. But this only makes Zell sadder, as he wonders whether there was ever a time when Landgrave used to be a noble warrior. Landgrave still doesn't recognize Zell and wonders why this kid is looking at him with such pity, but before he could understand who he was, Zell attacks him with a swift slash. Landgrave, however, is much faster than he looks as he dodges the attacks with some monkey moves and lands back on the ground. Zell tries to attack once again, but Landgrave blocks his strike with his own sword and pushes him back. He laughs at Zell, claiming that he is not strong enough to face him, while Zell curses the fact that he can't see the moon right now. This time, Landgrave goes on the offensive and tries to attack Zell, who dodges the strike before blocking a strong kick as well. Landgrave immediately throws some daggers, which Zell sidesteps, but Landgrave pushes through and keeps forcing Zell to back up with a barrage of attacks. Landgrave realizes that he needs to do something scummy, so he secretly takes out another dagger and manages to slash Zell across the back. Before he could celebrate, though, Landgrave realizes that even he got slashed in the process. Angry at this disrespect, Landgrave throws caution to the wind and attacks Zell head-on, but this time Zell takes the upper hand and slashes him across the back. He knows that Landgrave charges in headfirst whenever he gets angry, so he provokes him even more, which ends up working as Landgrave goes all in to land a hit, only to get slashes across his body multiple times. This turns into an all-out bloodbath as both Zell and Landgrave attack each other again and again without any breaks, when suddenly Landgrave realizes that these attacks seem familiar to him. He backs off and asks from where did he learn these moves, but as soon as Zell takes his stance once again, Landgrave is forced to remember that he is one of the heroes who they killed in order to save themselves. Zell takes advantage of this confusion and uses Landgrave's shock against him as he lands a special attack, stabbing Landgrave all over the body. Landgrave falls to the ground while Zell forces himself to finish the job. Landgrave can't believe his eyes and asks how the hell did Zell manage to stay alive when he was hacked to pieces and thrown off a cliff, but Zell refuses to reply and goes in for the kill shot. Just before he could land the final blow, though, a bunch of armored warrior maidens emerge and block his attacks before surrounding him on all sides. Zell is too tired to fight and collapses on the ground, while Landgrave eagerly asks him for the secret of him looking so young even after 20 years. Zell realizes that Landgrave was using all those demi-human women to reverse his aging, while Landgrave tells the scientists that they have received the perfect specimen to do their experiment. He instructs the scientists to put the cursed bug on him, which will basically make him a slave. But before they could do anything, though, Zell ends up going berserk as a bunch of black tentacles emerge from his body, killing the scientists around him. Landgrave realizes that there is something very wrong and orders the warriors to kill him, but Zell simply laughs and beats the crap out of the woman like an average American redneck. Landgrave starts screaming like a bitch, telling the women warriors to kill the monster, but Zell makes quick work of them and sends them back to the kitchen. Landgrave is horrified at this sight, but before he can run away, a giant boulder falls from the ceiling and crushes him beneath it. Zell laughs like a complete psychopath as he deals death and destruction to everyone around him, making even Wide and Danny scared. But his anger is only towards Landgrave. One of the scientists doesn't know how to read a room and asks whether he could do some experiments on him, and Zell replies by slashing him in half. Landgrave can't believe that this is happening to him and crawls on the floor, while Zell tells him that he is just as big of a scumbag as he was before, which would make it much easier to kill him. Landgrave begs for his life, but Zell slashes his arm off, claiming that there will be no mercy for him. Landgrave again decides to manipulate and gaslight Zell by reminding him of all the times they fought together and helped each other, but unlike my ex, Landgrave is not very good at it, which results in his death as Zell makes Swiss cheese out of him by stabbing him all over the body. Both Wide and Danny watch in horror as Zell looks down at Landgrave's dead body, claiming that there are still 6 more to go. But soon his powers wear off and he falls to the ground, unconscious. Danny quickly grabs him and realizes that his body is too thin and weak. She starts panicking, but her older sister tells her not to worry as Zell will survive this. According to her, he ended up losing control over his powers and released a large amount of it at once, but he should recover with enough rest. That was a relief, but the problems don't seem to end as the cave starts giving way and the water from a nearby lake starts rushing inside the halls. Danny immediately carries Zell over her shoulder, runs towards the exit, followed by Wide and Sharon. And on the way, they also spot the Centurion, who still can't get over the death of Fargo and ends up dying in the collapsing tunnels. Somehow, Wide and Danny make their way through the complex cave system and find their dragon before launching into the skies once again to run as far as possible. The guards watch the dragon soar in the sky, which confuses them, and they quickly start searching the castle for Landgrave, which gives Zell and his party enough time to disappear in the mountains. A couple days pass by after that, and the soldiers are still unable to find Landgrave in all the rubble. A meeting is set for the high officials, where it is officially declared that Landgrave is dead and his funeral would take place in the city itself. The entire city goes into mourning as Landgrave's procession is taken through the streets in a magnificent fashion, while the commoners throw flowers and weep for him. Peepee and Altia watch all this from the sidelines, not knowing the latest development, but when they realize that Landgrave is dead, they let out a sigh of relief, hoping that this means that Zell and the others are alive and well. To their surprise, Weed, dressed up as a monk, finds them in the alleyway and takes them back to the hideout where Zell is recovering. The hideout turns out to be a cave deep inside the forests on the mountain, where they find Zell, Danny, and Sharon resting. Peepee jumps onto Zell with tears in her eyes and asks why he looks so small. Zell himself doesn't know exactly what's happened, but promises that he will soon return to normal. The next morning, he takes them to a sacred place where he fought against the odds 20 years ago with his fellow soldiers and heroes, but was betrayed. Suddenly, he overhears the procession of Landgrave's funeral, arriving at this very location, which fills him with dread and anger, as this place is sacred for him, and is now going to be ruined. But he controls himself and backs off while the soldiers vow to take revenge on the traitors who killed their hero. He looks back at his party and tells them that they should all leave him now, as he is an enemy of the entire kingdom who will be hunted every single day of his life. But still, he is not going to stop and kill all the remaining 6 heroes. That night, they all get a troubled sleep as they wonder what to do next, but Altia, Danny, and Peepee all decide to stay with Zell for better or for worse, while Weed decides to head back so he can take Sharon to safety and protect her. The entire kingdom seems to be on high alert since the king called a meeting of all the remaining 6 heroes and told them to be on the lookout for this hero killer who murdered Landgrave. One of the heroes, named Barrister, gets a bit too nervous since he realizes that his territory is very close to Landgrave's and the traitor will probably enter his area next. He immediately tightens the security and orders an all-out manhunt to find the traitor, but unlike Landgrave's soldier, these soldiers are ruthless bandits who use this manhunt as an excuse to pillage and loot the villages in the area, pretending to search for Zell. While they were looting one such village, Zell decides to take action and walks up right in the open. The soldiers get confused at first, not thinking that this child could be of any importance, but one of the soldiers recognizes the white hair and the scared eye. They all attack Zell at once, but he makes quick work of them in a single slash before moving ahead. While he was dealing with these soldiers in the villages, Altia and the girls were sent to a tavern where they were acting as performers to gain as much information about this territory as possible. Peepee doesn't really like being a performer, but her dance with Danny is the talk of the town right now, and everyone wants to see them. One such night, while some actors were acting out a play about Zell and how he treacherously killed Landgrave, when some of the soldiers entered the tavern and pushed them away. They told the actors to piss off as they are here to see the girls dance, but before the soldier could hurt one of the actors, Danny immediately jumps into motion and blocks his strike. Unfortunately for her, the soldier's sword is much stronger and cuts through her wooden staff, leaving her unarmed, but before the soldier could attack, one of the men from the audience named Feast grabs him from behind before throwing him away. He claims that these actors are doing their best to show a story, and that everyone should respect that, but the soldiers think otherwise and try to attack him, only to get their arms and legs broken. Soon the man leaves the tavern while Zell was standing outside amongst the crowds. He realizes that the man is one of the strongest swordsmen in the country and is currently working under Glenn, so he decides that this is not the right moment to go in and hides. A couple days pass by after that when one day 4 knights enter Peepee's room to search for the hero killer. Peepee is shocked as one of the men with glasses has a special spirit which can detect demi-humans. The spirit smells Peepee for a bit like a narc dog before backing off, while Peepee is beyond scared as she wonders how she can tell the others about this new development. Suddenly, the spirit gets a new scent and starts shining brightly, so the 4 knights immediately leave, following the new trail. Unbeknownst to all this, Zell was walking through the hallways while thinking about his next move, and he suddenly comes face to face with the 4 knights. The spirit starts shining brightly, indicating that this is the man they were looking for, while the leader of the knights, named Elsaria, introduces herself and tells Zell to surrender himself immediately. On the other side of the Empire, Feast travels back to the city under the control of Glenn, where he finds him training in the legendary Swordsman Academy. Without any warning, Feast jumps past all the guards and the soldiers with extreme ease and tries to attack Glenn himself. His attack is blocked by the hero, while the other guards are horrified to see a hero being attacked. Feast tells Glenn that his guards are too slow, But Glenn isn't in the mood of having fun and takes him to his chamber for a meeting. He asks Feast whether he has heard about the traitorous hero killer roaming around the country, and orders Feast to kill that traitor and bring his head to him. Feast doesn't even flinch and immediately accepts the mission, while rest of the senior guards seethe in anger as they are older than him. And yet the hero chose him for such an important mission. One of the senior knights named Rosen, though, tells them to not take it personally, as Glenn knows Feast for a long time and even left him under the care of his former master Glee, who runs the academy. According to him, Feast is one of the strongest swordsmen in the country right now, and one of the only people who even dream of inheriting the title of the strongest swordsman that was once held by Zell. Back on the rooftop, Glenn watches the men train alongside Glee and asks her whether she is still mad at him for killing Zell. Glee's voice becomes heavy with emotions as she claims that she can never forgive him for doing that, since Zell was the most gifted and talented young man that she had ever trained. At the age of 16, he was already the strongest swordsman in the world, and his powers were growing every single day. More than that, he was like an adopted child, since she raised him ever since he was a young orphan. She claims that she still finds it very hard to believe that Zell could betray the country, as he was one of the sweetest and righteous people that she ever knew. Glenn looks down sadly and finally reveals that Zell in fact did not betray the kingdom willingly, and his heart was in the right place, but he was so jealous of his talents that they ended up killing him and the 3 other heroes. Glee is shocked at this revelation, and with eyes brimming with tears, she asks why did he have to drag his name through the mud and call him a traitor if he never did anything wrong. Glenn tells her that she must keep her mouth shut and serve the kingdom faithfully, as per her vows, otherwise Glenn will have no other choice but to kill her. Glee holds her tears and tells him that she is not afraid of her, but at the same time she knows her duty for the kingdom is more important than her personal hatred, so she will continue working for the country's peace. Back in Barrister's territory, the 4 knights chase Zell through the rooftops and attack him from behind, while he keeps defending and blocking the attack as he runs away. Elsaria calls him a coward and screams at him to face them, but Zell doesn't have that option since he kept all his gear and weapons in a stash underground while he was hiding in the city. Suddenly though, Dany jumps up to the roof double-wielding her swords and tells the 4 knights to back off. Elsaria is surprised to know that the traitor has friends, but this triggers Dany, who screams at Elsaria to stop calling him a traitor since he did the right thing by killing Landgrave. She claims that Elsaria has no idea that she is working for the most deranged monsters on Earth, while Zell is the real hero who she is willing to die fighting for. With that, she jumps towards Elsaria with her swords, but her teammates immediately throw chains at her. Thankfully, Zell deflects the chains while Dany clashes with Elsaria again and again, while Zell keeps getting attacked by her teammates. Soon it turns out into an all-out deathmatch as Zell fights for his life with his small daggers while Dany tries to keep up with Elsaria. Unfortunately though, they are outnumbered and the nerd from Elsaria's party uses fire magic to blast her away. Dany, however, is not weak and gets up once again to fight, while Zell screams at her to back off since they can't fight here. Because of her thoughtless fighting style, Zell is unable to focus on the enemies and is constantly distracted by her. The opponents take advantage of this, and one of them throws a knife at her, stabbing her in the back. Dany falls to the ground in pain, but thankfully Zell catches her and jumps down the building into the boat waiting below. Altia immediately starts rowing, and somehow they manage to evade the 4 knights into their hideout. Altia and Pee-Pee start treating Dany, who becomes feverish because of her injuries, while Zell angrily claims that he can't fight with such an immature fighter. He tells Altia that he needs to leave this place because the nerd has a spirit which can track him easily, so late at night, he makes his way through the underground tunnels and grabs his gear before making his way outside, while thinking about how if everything was alright, he could have taught new swordsmen alongside his teacher Glee, and their Dany could have become a great swordsman, since she has a lot of raw talent. His thoughts are broken by the 4 knights who are waiting for him to emerge outside and surround him on all sides. The battle begins, and the 4 knights immediately start attacking him from all sides, not letting him rest even for a moment, but Zell continues to outpace them as he finds gaps between their defense and even manages to land a slash against Elsaria, though only to her armor. One of the knights wonders whether they will be able to take this man down, but the other one reassures him that the battle is as good as over, since the nerd has finally created a barrier around this area, which will make Zell slow and tired before putting him to sleep. Zell immediately starts feeling the effects as he drops to the floor tired, unable to understand what's happening to his body, while Elsaria slowly walks towards him, claiming that he doesn't need to worry as he won't feel a thing when she chops his head off. She raises her sword and brings it down, but to her surprise, Zell still has enough strength to block her attack with his arms. Suddenly, the barrier around them falls, and Zell immediately gets his energy back and dodges her attack before backing off. He looks around only to find an injured Dany walking towards him with a piece of torn talisman which broke the barrier. Dany immediately joins the battle, where she is attacked by one of the knights, but she blocks the dagger and stands beside Zell bravely. The battle starts once again as Elsaria attacks Zell, who blocks and dodges her attacks as he realizes that he is still not recovered completely. He looks towards Dani as she might need his help, but to her surprise, Dani seemed to have learned from her mistake and is fighting much more carefully this time. They regroup once again and all seems to be going well when suddenly the walls behind them explode and Dani ends up getting gravely injured. Zell is just as confused as the four knights when they see fiery arrows raining from the skies as the common people run to safety. Elsaria immediately realizes that this is the work of Barrister, who is so paranoid that he has decided to level this city to the ground in order to find his would-be assassin. Thankfully, this little distraction gives Zell enough time that he runs away from the scene alongside Dani to safety. He puts Dani down on the floor to check up on her, only to realize that her condition is pretty bad. She seems to have broken several bones and even her pulse is very faint. Tears roll down her eyes as she looks up at Zell and asks whether she did well. Zell immediately takes her hand and tells her to relax as she did amazing and that he is very proud of her. This gives her some solace, but her injuries are very grave and soon she starts struggling to stay alive. Zell screams at her to control her breathing and to fight for her life, but slowly her body goes limp as the life force starts draining out of her body. Zell realizes that she is as good as dead when she completely stops responding, so in a last-ditch effort, he takes out his sword and licks it with his tongue, causing blood to run down his mouth. Immediately after, he kisses Dani on the lips, transferring some of his life force down her gullet, but I think it was just an excuse to get some action. Tears start forming in his eyes as he prays to God that his technique works, and to his surprise, Dani starts writhing in pain on the ground, but still that means that she is alive. He tells her to accept his blood and not fight it, while explosions from the artillery completely destroy several houses. Meanwhile, Barrister's army manages to create a gaping hole in the walls, bigger than the one in my heart. They go all Indian on this city as the elephants start marching in and the soldiers start looting any shop they can find. Thankfully, Elsaria reaches just in time and commands one of the captains to stop this madness at once, since they have no right to attack this city. The captain gets scared since Elsaria is the daughter of a rich and powerful noble, but one of the commanders chimes in between and tells Elsaria that they have all the right to destroy the entire city since the people and the Lord here are hiding the assassins that are willing to kill Lord Barrister, and an offense like that means total destruction. Elsaria tries to argue and asks for any sort of proof, but just like my father, the commander shouts that he doesn't need any proof for his outlandish claims. He promises to level this city to the ground and execute its lord the moment they get their hands on him. Elsaria is shocked and wonders why the hell would a hero appoint a commander who is so vile and barbaric. The commander, on the other hand, simply laughs and tells Elsaria and her party to stand down and watch from a distance without interfering. His army will destroy them as well. After that, the commander orders his army to move forward towards the Lord's mansion and to tear it down brick by brick before bringing the Lord to him. The soldiers immediately jump into action as they start walking ahead, while Elsaria screams at her party that they need a plan to get over this problem. While this was happening, Zell was still sitting with Dani, hoping that she would come back to consciousness, and to his surprise, Dani ends up coughing and actually opens her eyes, thanking Zell for saving her life. Zell feels a wave of relief as he gets up and tells her to wait till the moon rises, as it will give her the energy that she needs, and once she is rested, she should come and find him as he might need some backup in this fight. Meanwhile, the soldiers start destroying the city with their elephants and burning everything to the ground, while the children and their mothers run in every direction, wondering why a hero who is supposed to be their savior wants to kill them so badly. The city starts imploding as two of the mercenary group inside the city almost end up in a civil war while trying to figure out a way to defeat this army, while Elsaria feels completely helpless as she remembers Dani telling her that the heroes she's trying to defend are actual monsters. The commander and the captain both watch the destruction from above, but the commander is still not satisfied by the level of destruction being caused, so he tells the troops to go door to door at every house and start punishing them for letting a rebel stay inside the city. Elsaria can't believe this as the soldiers start killing innocent men and women all over the city. She tries to help a child and her mother, but is stopped by her party members who claim that there is nothing she could do here. Tears roll down her cheeks as she struggles to get free and save the life of that child, but to her surprise, Zell arrives at the very last moment, slashing the soldier's head off in one swift motion. The other soldier gets so horrified that he falls to the ground in fear, while Zell proclaims that he is the hero killer that they have been looking for. The soldier screams for reinforcement, and soon a platoon of soldiers appear with their leader to take down the hero killer. They all stand in a face-off against Zell, but all of them are too scared to take him on, which pisses their leader off, while Zell mocks them for being scared of him while they were having so much fun killing innocent people who can't fight back. Finally, a couple of soldiers gather their courage and attack him, but Zell has no trouble slicing through them before moving on to the next set of soldiers that he carves through like carving a cake. Some of the soldiers try using their spears as an advantage, but Zell is too quick and closes the distance before slashing them to bits as well. The platoon leader screams at his archers to nail him, but Zell manages to dodge through their arrows and kills them off before going for the platoon leader himself. He kills the platoon leader without any issues and shouts at the civilians to make a run for safety. Meanwhile, Altia manages to stop the civil war between the two mercenary groups since she knew both the leaders and helped smuggle them into the inner city. She manages to unite them, and together with the armed civilians, they decide to fight back against the army of the hero. Back at the battlefront, the captain feels confident about the chances of winning since Zell is only one man against a massive army, and there is no way that he can find a way out of this battle alive. Unfortunately, though, he soon hears about the civilians mounting a counterattack, and his confidence slowly starts disappearing. Led by Altia, the two mercenary groups start breaking through the enemy ranks while the civilians use shields to protect themselves from the arrows. Elsaria and her party notices that Zell alone has basically turned the tides of the battle completely, and he is very close to breaking the spirits of the enemy forces, but they also realize that he is getting tired now. Elsaria makes a tough decision and decides to basically join forces with Zell and orders her party to defend the innocent civilians from the enemy forces. Before they can head out, though, a wave of terror goes down the enemy forces as they scream about an extremely strong girl killing them from behind. This girl turns out to be Dani herself, who now has white hair and small bits of feather on her body for some reason. She makes quick work of the enemies in front of her and reunites with Zell, who feels happy to see her up and running again. He asks whether she would like to fight with him, and she eagerly agrees at this opportunity. Soon the fight begins once again, but the enemies are not matched against the combined power of Zell and Dani together as they defeat the entire platoon in record time. This breaks the enemy's confidence as the soldiers start running away, but their escape is cut off by Elsaria and her party, who start picking off the soldiers one by one. Zell and Dani continue to delete anyone who comes in their way, and soon even the commander decides to make a run for it, but tells the captain to hold the line and promises to bring reinforcements. However, the soldiers completely lose any hope after seeing their commander flee, and they all start running away from the fight while being chased by the townspeople. As for the squad of dragon riders to rain hellfire, while an elephant unit also enters the city, the captain thinks that the battle is over now, but Barrister seems to have gone insane as he destroys his own elephant unit for absolutely no reason. The captain realizes that his hero is nuts and starts running for his life among the alleys, where he is stopped by Elsaria and her crew. They ask him to spill all the information he has about Barrister, but the captain decides to run, only to be shackled by Elsaria's party. Back in the battlefield, the mercenary leader slowly starts losing hope as he watches the dragon squad flying above, and a piece of debris would have crushed him if it wasn't for Zell, who shattered it with his sword and tells the mercenary leader to get up and fight again. Zell decides that the dragon squad needs to be taken care of as soon as possible, so he tells Dani to follow him as he jumps from one beam to another before launching himself into the moonlit sky. Suddenly, a bunch of magical swords appear from his body as he quickly takes care of multiple dragon riders at once. Everyone is shocked at this display, and the dragon riders are filled with fear as they don't even know what kind of a monster they are fighting against. Dani jumps into the action as well as she takes over one of the dragons and starts killing anyone who would dare come in her way. Some of the mages try to Avada Kedavra him, but Zell's sword managed to block and reflect the magic back at its user, killing him immediately. Zell jumps down to one of the clock towers while the townspeople watch him in awe as they realize that Zell is the actual hero who is protecting them from these monsters. The commander orders the dragon squad to focus all their attacks on the hero killer, but before they could launch an attack, the mercenaries start shooting them out of the sky with the help of their giant crossbows that they stole straight from Game of Thrones. The crossbows are very effective, however, as they shoot most of the dragons, gaining a great advantage, while the mercenary leader claims Zell as their hero. At first, the locals are shocked, but they soon join in their voices as they chant for Zell as their hero as the battle rages on. Zell doesn't really care that much, though, as he focuses on the battle and starts taking care of the rest of the dragon squad before jumping on the dragon that Dani was riding. The commander once again realizes that he is no match against Zell and decides to flee after ordering the men to continue fighting while he gets some more reinforcement. This obviously didn't go well with the soldiers, who immediately lost the will to fight while Zell picked them apart one by one. The commander realizes that there is only one way to win the fight, and that is to take control of one of the warships created by Glenn, which is hidden in this city. He thinks about how Barristar will give him so many riches if he manages to win this battle for him, but before he could reach the location where the ship was hidden, the ship itself starts floating up in the air while the captain was dangling on a rope from it. The commander realizes that the captain must have gotten caught and has already spilled the beans to Elsaria and her crew. Barrister, on the other hand, doesn't have any clue about this development and thinks that one of his men has already captured Glenn's flagship and is now bringing it to Barristar. This gives him a lot of options, as he can simply turn the entire city to dust and ashes now without any fear of harming the ship. He remembers how his request of creating his own battleship was rejected any explanation, even though Glenn built one for himself without any issue. This really affected Barristar, who started hating Glenn for always behaving as if they are not equal, when in reality both of them are heroes. He remembers the time in the forest when the 7 heroes were huddled around a campfire as they wondered how the 4 heroes would ever manage to come out of his battle alive. Glenn claims that Zell is a guy who has already faced through many such impossible odds, but somehow has managed to come through with victory in all of them with a smile on his face. Suddenly they wonder what will they do if he actually manages to win this impossible battle as well. Landgrave claims that Zell is a good friend and he will probably not tell the king that the remaining heroes were hiding in the forest, but Glenn isn't so sure and claims that they need to be prepared just in case Zell manages to make his way out through this battle as well. While he was going through this crisis, Zell was cutting his men down left and right and making a beeline towards his floating castle. The Mage Riders try to stop him with their magic, but Danny manages to dodge through all of them before Zell cuts through them with his magical swords. Barrister finally notices Zell flying straight towards him and decides to blast him off the sky using his mega cannon, but fortunately for Zell, Barrister's aim is similar to me trying to piss in the pot while drunk. Elsaria realizes that Barrister has totally lost it and asks her party member to arm the battleship, as they are going to try and destroy Barrister's castle from the sky. She apologizes to her crew for dragging them into this situation, as by following her orders, they are going to attack a hero of the country, which is a very big crime, but her crew claims that they will get out of it one way or another, and it's her who would have to face the brunt of the damage since she is a well-known noble. She smiles, claiming that this ruthless tactic will definitely hurt her father's position a little, but her father raised her up to fight against injustice, which is exactly what she is doing. She commands them to arm the cannon immediately, and once everything is ready, she gives the order to fire. Immediately, a giant sword emerges from the battleship, which fires an extremely strong lightning attack which destroys anyone in its path while also seriously damaging the floating castle. Barrister is shocked to see that the battleship is firing at him, since he thought that he had the command over it, and this really breaks him as he starts crying and orders a counterattack. The castle artillery fires a lightning blast in return, but thankfully, the battleship is much quicker and manages to evade the attack by a couple of inches. While this is happening, Danny is having trouble getting out of the line of attack and is worried that they might get caught in the next one, but Zell tells her to stay close to the walls and move straight up the towers. Danny follows his commands and manages to safely reach the upper tower where Barrister is hiding. The ugly hero is shocked to see Zell right outside his window, while he tells Danny to move away for now and come back for him later. Without sparing a second after that, Zell jumps off the dragon and uses his swords to break through the window and enters his stronghold. Barrister, however, manages to escape that area and starts running through the stairs, trying to find a place to hide while remembering how Zell was always there to help him, but he still killed him in cold blood. Meanwhile, Elsaria has no idea that Zell is still in the floating fortress, as she orders another attack on the castle, shaking it up completely. Zell peeks out the window and notices that all the occupants of the castle are evacuating through safety pods and makes a run for it, determined that he won't let Barrister escape. Meanwhile, the soldiers start fighting to enter the last safety pod, when Barrister arrives at the scene, asking them to move away and let him enter. Without even noticing who it is, the soldier kick him away to the ground, even after realizing that it's the hero himself. They don't really care and escape, leaving him alone while Elsaria fires another powerful beam at the castle. The beam destroys most of the castle, and as the dust settles, Barrister finds Zell standing in front of him. Suddenly, his light starts flashing in front of him as he remembers how his family were businessmen, but he had no brains for a business, but he was decently strong, so his father told him to become a soldier instead. He remembers how when he thought his life was lost while fighting against an orc, Zell saved his life without any hesitation. Barrister starts crying as he realizes that Zell is the same hero who he betrayed 20 years ago. Zell himself is shocked that Barrister recognized him, but by this point, Barrister starts hallucinating as he cries in gibberish, and Zell realizes that Barrister has gone mentally insane. He decides to cut his suffering short and slashes through him in a single stroke, killing another great hero of the Empire. Zell stands there contemplating what he has to do next when suddenly a huge ship stops right in front of the destroyed castle. One of the generals from the Empire, who knew Zell before, climbs out and tells Zell to stop this madness, but suddenly spots the dead body of Barrister lying on the ground in a puddle of blood. He is shocked that Zell managed to kill not one but 2 heroes all on his own. Zell looks sad and claims that he still has 5 more to take care of when suddenly Feast walks out of the ship as well and walks up to Zell nonchalantly, claiming that he doesn't really care about Barrister and is actually good for him, because now the bounty on Zell's head is even higher. Zell immediately recognizes him as the guy from the city who took care of those rowdy men who were harassing Pee-Pee. Feast introduces himself as a lowly knight under the command of the hero Glenn and challenges him to a duel. Feist immediately draws his sword out and takes a stance which is very familiar to Zell, surprising him. Before he could react though, Feast tries to strike him down with all his strength, but Zell still has enough stamina to keep up with his speed as he blocks and deflects all the attacks before deciding to go on the offensive. The swords clash repeatedly, and Feast soon realizes that he might have underestimated the hero killer as Zell starts taking the edge as he forces Feast to go all out. Their battle rages on as Feast gains respect for his opponent while Zell realizes that Feast must have been trained by the same master that he got training from, and that's why he is able to keep up with him. Feast decides to take it a notch and runs up with an overhand swing, but Zell again manages to deflect his attacks and pushes him back. Feast seems to be having fun as he compliments Zell's strength and endurance, before asking him to reveal his true powers and take out his magical swords from his ass. Before Zell could reply though, Danny arrives and tries to help Zell, but she is forced to maintain a distance because the castle might collapse at any moment. Feast continues to taunt Zell, claiming that he knows about his Black Wing technique which gives him a bunch of magical swords and claims that he wants to fight him at full strength. Feast continues that right now he is just a slave who has earned a high position under the hero, but he is a slave nonetheless. Once he brings the head of the infamous hero killer in front of the king, he will get rewarded so handsomely that he could earn his freedom, after which he will probably become a sword instructor as well. With that, he decides to up his pace once again so he could force Zell to use his Black Wing technique, but Zell maintains a calm attitude, defensively blocking every single attack with such precision that Feast realizes that this man might have even surpassed Master Glee in terms of raw skills with the sword. The general looks at the scene with horror as he can see the tragedy unfold in front of him where the person who is known as the strongest sword in the kingdom is fighting against a young talent who's in line to inherit that same title, but instead of learning from each other, they are trying to destroy each other. Feast screams at Zell to reveal where he learnt swordsmanship, but Zell keeps his mouth shut, forcing Feast to attack again. Zell backs off this time, realizing that this young body that he has transformed into can't really handle more than this. Feast realizes that something is holding Zell back and claims that if he can't fight at full strength, then Feast has no choice but to eliminate him right here, right now. With that proclamation, Feast focuses all his attention at the tip of this sword before bursting into a flurry of attacks too quick for the normal eye to witness. Zell, however, barely manages to track his movements and deflects the attack while being pushed back by every swing. Unfortunately, he can't keep this up forever, and Feast finds an opening which he exploits and lands a strike so swift that Zell fails to react in time. His armor starts breaking off as he falls to his knees. Feast doesn't seem to be very pleased though as he turns around and claims that what he tried was a very crude imitation of the Black Wing technique, which Zell should have seen coming from a mile away since he supposedly mastered this technique. Zell gets back up on his feet once again with his sword pointing towards his enemy, while Feast starts looking a little bored and claims that with his next attack he will finish the fight. Zell smiles at Feast, thinking about how Master Glee found another young man with a lot of raw talent, but he decides that this is the time to end this battle for now. The clouds move out of the way and moonlight falls on Zell's back, filling him with energy, which the general realizes and tries to warn Feast about, but he has already started his attack and rushes towards Zell with all his might. This time, however, Zell manages to dodge the attack with extreme ease before landing his own Black Wing strike, which is so fast and strong that Feast doesn't even get a moment to process as his sword shatters to pieces and multiple wounds open up in his body as he falls to the ground. The general immediately runs up to check on Feast, thankful that he is not mortally wounded, while Zell tells Feast that he was correct and that with his current body, the Black Wing technique was the only way to defeat Feast. He further claims that he sensed hesitation in Feast's blade, and tells him that once he gets over that, he will be able to master the Black Wing technique as well. Soon the castle starts falling to pieces, but thankfully Danny is right outside with her dragon and swoops Zell up from the battle scene and leaves. The general tells Feast to pull himself together, but Feast seems to have broken mentally as he realizes that Black Wing is a one-hit killer move, but yet he is still alive, which means that Zell actually showed mercy on him and let him live. Back in the city, another small noble from the nearby area decides to take advantage of the power struggle and rushes inside the city with his guards, where the mercenary leader has erected a flag with 4 swords in honor of Zell, their hero. The noble screams at them to put the flag down and surrender, as the flag denotes that they are with a traitorous hero killer. The civilians openly refuse his demands, claiming that this flag is of the real hero who protected them. But the noble decides to take matter in his own hands and sends his mountain of a son with his hammer to bring down the flag and anyone who came in his way. The man walks up to the flag and was going to hit one of the civilians, but Zell comes at the right moment, slashing his hammer into 2 pieces and also destroying his armor in the process. The entire platoon of soldiers starts shivering in their boots at the sight of the man who single-handedly fought an army. The noble tries to push them ahead for a battle, but his own son decides to lay down his weapons, forcing the rest of them to run away as well. The entire city celebrates the return of their hero, but Zell doesn't even spare a smile as he walks up to the flagpole and cuts it down, so that the flag comes down. He knows that if the soldiers see this flag, they would harass the citizens of this region even more, and with that, he sits behind Danny once again and leaves into the moonlight towards his next adventure.